question.
All right. Welcome, champs. Top 4 from the worst year ever.
Outrageous. Rockets, Thunder tonight? Question mark? Houston without Ben McLemore, positive COVID test, self-isolating. Kenyon Martin Jr., positive COVID test, self-isolating. John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins sent home today for contact tracing and proximity to Martin, reported to be in a room where all three got a haircut. Cousins also questionable with an ankle injury. James Harden, the NBA looking into Mr. Harden. This video of him maskless, some called it a strip club. Harden denied that, said it was an event for a friend. If it broke COVID protocol, he'll be out tonight. NBA, opening night, part 2. Sarah, here you are, my Rocket Queen. What are you doing with this information?
If it didn't break COVID protocol, then the NBA is in even worse trouble than I already think they are, because we got an indoor sport as the cases are rising, with no masks, with no helmets, with small rosters. Like, this was already going to be so impossible. But if we haven't even got to one game and we already see players out indoors, no masks, hundreds of people, I don't know what we're doing here. And listen, if your argument is that James Harden wants so badly out of Houston that he's going to keep acting up in order to make sure they do it, not only is he affecting their leverage and ability to trade him, as the offers for him will go down the more he acts up and the less available he is also doing so while putting everyone around him at danger. His family, his friends, his teammates, his coaches, his opponents, this league. I have absolutely no sympathy for him. Accountability matters, and I don't care whether you think the Rockets have handled this right. Going out in the middle of a virus that killed 2,000 people on Monday alone and doing this is unforgivable. There is no excuse for this. We're so sick of hearing these numbers that we forget how big they are. I don't get it, Tony, and I don't know if this sport is going to work with no bubble, but it's certainly not going to work if people are acting like he is and like whoever else is already testing positive before they've even played a game.
Thank you for your thoughts, Sarah Spain. Clinton Yates, I'll bring you in here on the position the Houston Rockets find themselves tonight. Game 1 of the NBA season without a bubble.
The Houston Rockets are in the position of having made your bed and now sleeping in it. This is exactly why I said playing Harden and having him around the team was a bad idea, because the worst case scenario was going to be something blows up in your face that you can't handle, and that's exactly where we are in terms of what they're going to be able to do in terms of moving him. As for the COVID situation, that's an extremely unfortunate scenario that, again, I look at the Rockets and I say, what is happening in terms of what happened in your front office from an organization standpoint? Guys are getting haircuts in the same room. That should be something that I would think, if I'm on a team, I'm handling as part of simply how I deal with my players overall. And it's unfortunate because I think a lot of people want to conflate the concerns about what Harden is as a person with what happens on the court. And if I'm a fan of the Rockets, I don't care if Harden gets his kicks at the local library, never mind some gentleman's club. What I care about is whether or not they can put a team on the court. And they can't right now. And it doesn't really matter why, in my opinion. It's unfortunate that this is how we have to educate ourselves about a pandemic. But when you're protocol guide is over 150 pages. Some things seem like a little bit more common sense, and the Rockets don't seem to be applying very much of that right now.
Sarah's shaking her head no. This is the tournament champions. Come on back in, Sarah, please.
I just want to say, did Clinton hold a single human being accountable there, or did he just keep blaming the Rockets for the decisions being made by the
Yes, the human beings who run the Rockets front office are accountable for what they do.
And none of the players
that go on the court.
None of the players getting the haircuts and going to the club. None of those people are responsible. After 9 months of being told what we can and can't do, it's on the team only?
Clinton, respond.
No, it's not about only. The team is part of the entire operation. The players are only one part. The people who ultimately write the checks are the people who should be held most responsible in this position. And that's what I think. If I was a fan of the team, that's what I think. I'm not. And I look upon it and I say, yo, it doesn't matter why these dudes aren't here. You can't field a team. You're paid to do that. And they can't.
Now Frank Isola here on the position the Rockets find themselves in. This is opening night of the NBA season.
Yeah, I guess we know why Sarah Spain made it to the tournament final. Wow, that was something else. Here's the thing about the Houston Rockets. When I hear Adam Silver say, we're not going to jump the line for the vaccine, I start thinking, you know what? He might want to revise that. Maybe he's ready to do that now. Both situations, from what we know, are unrelated. The Harden situation, it's ridiculous. The league needs to step in at some point. He's sabotaging not only the season, but he's also sabotaging his trade value, which is going to hurt the Houston Rockets. As for the rest of the teammates, get ready, folks. We saw this in college basketball. We've seen it in the NFL, baseball. Every team in the NBA is going to have a situation like this throughout the season until the players wise up.
You said the league needs to step in on Harden. You saying a suspension here for conduct outside the court?
Because, come on, Tony, when he was supposed to be at training camp, he was photographed at a place in Atlanta kind of doing the same thing. They kind of let that one go. This is the second time on the eve of the season. This is a star player in the league, and he's basically just taunting the league and the Houston Rockets.
To be clear, Harden's response was this was not a strip club. This was a club. He was there for a friend, an event for a friend. Israel Gutierrez, now you.
Yeah, I see this as two separate situations. The first with the COVID players and those who have to sit out. This is almost fortunate for the league that it's happening early, right? And this is what happened with a lot of the other leagues that were outside of a bubble. You go through the scare early, you sort of tweak whatever it is you have to tweak, really impress upon your players how important it is to stick to the guidelines, and then you hope that you don't have any further scares as the season goes along. When it comes to James Harden, it appears that he is trying to, what did the Rockets say? Or reportedly say they're okay making things uncomfortable. It appears he is trying to make them more uncomfortable. It appears, anyway, that he is using a pandemic as leverage on his side. Said, hey, I don't want to do what you guys are asking me to do. I'm just going to go over here and be me and force you to trade me, which in actuality is going to keep him there longer because he has no leverage in that scenario, or the Rockets don't.
Clinton Yates.
Harden definitely needs to get his thing together.
Thank you, Israel. Clinton, you seem to be you're shaking your head while Israel's talking. What are you thinking right now?
James Harden likes three things: going to the rack, going to the free throw line, and going to hang out with his friends. If I'm running an operation, that dude in a pandemic doesn't get anywhere near anybody I think I need to make my systems go. That's my point here. And whether or not it's some trade value because if you're concerned about his ego, or whether or not it's because of the health factor of COVID, whatever the case may be, doesn't seem like.
Does anybody think Adam Silver right now is rethinking his decision to proceed with this season in arenas and not trying a bubble again? Clinton, yes. Frank, do you think?
I do, and I think that maybe it was something that you moved closer to probably something that was more regionalized so that you could at least get people in the same place so that they could do things like socialize together and not put each other at risk, and therefore, help whatever their mindset is to play. But right now, this situation, people going all over the place, it's just not going to work.
Frank, what did you hear about the considerations of a bubble a year two?
Well, remember, the players are really against that. If you want to get back to me a month from now, I think that they realize that this could happen. The issue that the NBA has, unlike football, you don't have over 50 guys on your roster. So you take out 4 guys off of a team, it has a huge impact.
All right. Thanks for your thoughts on this. We're going to get to last night now because, nobody does it like the Lakers do it. And the Lakers did it great last night with the ring ceremony. I was going to call all your family to come in and help you get your Tournament of Champions button that we give out. But after that, the Clippers, who, by the way, didn't get a ring. They got PlayStation 5 from their owner. They channeled all that because they came out and had what's going to need to be the first of many make up for last year performances. And it was Paul George, of course. 10 of 12, 4 3-pointers, 26 in the second half. And Tyronn Lue called him, anyone? Unstoppable.
Unstoppable.
Well, Clinton, what the Clippers showed you in game one. Go ahead, champ.
The Clippers showed me that the wheels have not entirely fallen off of this wagon. I mean, their offseason was as tumultuous as anybody's in terms of everything that came out about how they run their ship, in terms of the disappointment in the playoffs. And on top of that, they changed coaches. So for them to have to watch that ceremony from the guys right across the hall after they lost the guy, to the team right across the hall, and come out and actually get a win, and Paul George be that confident, as far as I'm concerned, that is an A effort from the Los Angeles Clippers on a night like that.
Frank Isola, was it one effort or is it big? Could it be something more?
Well, remember that last year they were up 3-1 on Denver. They had a double-digit lead in the second half of all those games. So while they blew those leads, they were in position to make the conference finals. They still should be the second-best team in the Western Conference. And Paul George, it was important for him to play like that. The last time we saw him, he hit the side of the backboard on a wide-open jumper in the bubble. To go 13 of 18 and get that huge contract, he needed a performance like that.
Gutierrez.
You know what's starting to bother me about the Clippers is that it's becoming all about Paul George. This is Kawhi Leonard's team. This is a Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen situation coming into their partnership the entire time. But now all of a sudden, because Paul struggles in the bubble and then he gets the max extension and people think less of him, now all of a sudden it's all on him. No, Kawhi Leonard needs to play like he is in the conversation for the best player in the league. Why? Because he was when he won the championship. And so you want to regain that title, come back for it and play like that guy again. And Paul George won't have to be that good. Some people think he can be that good. They think he can be.
Them until they prove it in the playoffs. But they were one of two teams in the league that needed to have their first game mean more. And that's them and the Nets, who we also saw last night. Because we needed to see them come out strong, and we needed to see them blow the lead like they did, and instead of falling apart, put their foot on the gas and still get the W, something that they didn't do down the stretch last year. To Frank's point, obviously, Paul George needed to have a good performance. They needed to prove under a new coach, this is a new year, and we're changing things.
Is it possible, Frank, let me ask you this point blank, in Israel, because Clinton and Sarah got enough time earlier in the show. Is it possible this team, the Clippers, are better suited to play the Lakers than some of the other teams they met last year in the postseason? This is a matchup they like. Israel, are you buying into that?
I definitely think, if you just look at the wings and guarding LeBron, I think that's a benefit for them. And they do have some size to deal with Anthony Davis.
Frank?
The Lakers are the world champions. The Clippers are the Staples Center's champion. They seem to always beat the Lakers. The problem was they didn't play them in the playoffs last year.
All right, so we got Israel's sweater, and we got Sarah's sweater. Frank, what are we looking at here? Get off my lawn. Very Isola brand. And Mr. Clinton Yates, you've got a whole bag of goodies here.
Oh, I found it!
Yes.
Finally!
But that's Star Wars. I'm looking at Star Wars right here, right? Yeah, of course.
Yes, of course.
Happy holidays, baby.
Back with Buy or Sell in the Tournament of Champions.
What I see in this team is a bunch of guys who can get their own shot, and we talk about this often in the playoffs. It's, hey, do you have the guys that can create either for themselves or for somebody else when the defense is really focused on you? They have multiple here with Dinwiddie, LeVert, obviously Durant, and Irving. And what I love about Steve Nash is he's going to basically simplify the game to a point where those guys get to their spots and take the shots that they're comfortable with. It's that simple. He's not going to overthink.
And Champ, what did the Nets show you last night?
Yeah, I've already heard people saying they're running away with the East. They've forgotten about the Bucks already. I'm not going to go there just yet, but I do think this was my other team that needed to have a great first night, because if the basketball is great, the media, the fans, the players on that team, everyone cares a whole lot less about what's getting said on a podcast or who thinks the earth is flat. And so it's really important for them to start strong, more so than other teams, because there have been so many questions about whether it's going to work, and because if they start great, they don't get tempted to add Harden to the mix, which I do not think is the right move for this team.
Yeah, it appears you're not a big fan of James Harden. And Champ, how about you?
I think the Nets show that they are going to be a problem. And one of the things that Frank talked about in terms of all these different guys that they have, remember last year when Kyrie said they need X, Y, Z, A, B? That's not a third, but they got that now, okay? And they're pretty daggone good. And more importantly, Kyrie, champion, since we're talking about champions. Kevin Durant, champion. That's a factor on a team like this when it comes to leadership, yo. This team is good.
Real quick, Champ, you can come back in.
You know, Izzy's got Tyler Hero on the brain, because when you look at the Nets roster, they have 2 Finals MVPs and 1 regular season MVP on the team. Guess who it is? Kevin Durant. It's about him. That's who it's about.
We'll move on. Buy or sell, too. Steph's look on the bench last night, anyone? There's something there, right? What do you think he's thinking? Could it possibly be that this is another lost year in his prime, Champ?
It's possible he's got a headache from that haircut. Look, I don't think it's going to be that sad for the Warriors. I think he brings joy to the team. I think James Wiseman, just watching him grow, and he had the most points for a Warriors rookie since Sarunas Marciulionis, and anytime you invoke the name Marciulionis, you should smile.
Champ?
Yeah, except for the fact that those points were wasted when the rest of the team didn't show up. It was mostly just him and Curry, and I think he's thinking to himself, one game will be over tonight, but this meme is going to last all season long, and I don't really want to have to deal with that.
Champ, what do you think Curry's thinking right now?
My homies call this the Kevin Federline cornrow setup, but I think overall he realizes that, you know what, this is not going to be what you people think it's going to be. With no Klay Thompson, his team just isn't as good, and that's the look on his face.
It's incredible from Champ. And Champ, how about Curry last night?
Hey, he realized he's going to go through another whole season without Klay Thompson. And he realized on Christmas Day, I'm not going to be with that beautiful family of mine. I'm going to be in Milwaukee playing a basketball game against a team that's a lot better
come
than
on.
mine.
Wow. Man, just because the man lives in Montclair, you don't get to throw shade at Milwaukee. Speaking of, happy holidays for his career, Drew Holiday, 16-6-4, 35 from 3, one All-Star, All-NBA first team defense and second team defense once or twice. He's the big acquisition. They couldn't lag Bogdanovich. Giannis Supermax. What will it add up to this year for Milwaukee? They ran into the wall last year. Same could be true said for Boston. Champ, what do you buy, what do you sell from this opening night matchup, Milwaukee-Boston?
I'm buying that this is one of the most exciting teams to get a look at because they're only returning 50% of the minutes from their roster last year. There was a massive turnover, and now that we've seen the Nets, and we're already scared after one game, the pressure is way more so on the Bucks than even last year.
Are they better this year, though, Champ? Please, Champ, answer the question. Champ.
Yes, they're better.
Yes, they're better.
Yates, how about you? What are you buying?
The Bucks are better, but the question here for me is about the Celtics. After all these years of top picks, cap space, mid-level exceptions, it's time to answer to somebody, Ainge. This team is too talented to not be advancing as far as they are, and you got guys that are growing like 3 inches in the offseason. Let's see how
This is about Boston to you. Champ, how about you?
Yeah.
Well, the Celtics keep making it to the conference finals. By the way, I love Milwaukee. I love Giannis Antetokounmpo. I like the fact that Boston has Tristan Thompson. You know what I'm concerned about? Kemba Walker's knee. That is going to be something to look closely at.
And
It's gonna be a
Champ?
big problem.
Yeah, I think we're going to be bored with Milwaukee because they're going to be on path to win 70 games. And we're going to just say, wait for the playoffs. That's when we'll judge them. Boston has a chance to